Hey, it's Sauter. So, kind of wanted to. I got back from my vacation fairly recently, and I actually started doing some work on this project again. I was trying to rework the job system, and I'm just trying kind of realizing that I'm not exactly enjoying working on this project. It's I didn't really think things through. Like, it's not super well organized. Like, if you're watching some of the earlier videos, how it was just kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna do this and then think it through later. But it's just not really working for that particular purpose. Um, my C++ is it's a lot better than it was, and that was kind of the reason why I did this. But I also kind of realized I don't really like working in C++ that much. Just kind of a pain, and I don't know. Basically, the kind of pushing point or the tipping point for me was basically with trying to rework job. So I need to store a lot more data in job than I am currently. Currently, I'm just storing the target or where the entity's moving towards, and it's just. I mean, the way to do it, there's no real nice way to do it. I mean, I could just lump a bunch of stuff in here, but then have to check, what type of thing this is. I have to check for nulls or just, yeah, I don't know. I guess the crux of it is I just don't really like working in C++. Entity X works fine. There are some things I would change. For one, like this for each thing, it works well, but occasionally you want to do something where you're like, oh, I only want to loop over things like here, like you see, I'm checking to see if there's a job and I'm doing a continue. I'd like to be able to kind of lump in there, like basically say, oh, when there's not a component, like be able to have like it's like each like position, velocity, and maybe like not job if I want to just look at entities without a job and ignore ones that have a job currently, unless I mean, there's, yeah. I mean, overall, it's a perfectly good library, and that's not really the reason. It's just C++ mostly. I mean, it's fast, and that's what it's good for, but it's just not enjoyable to work in, and I'm not. I keep trying to do it like I would with Java or Kotlin or even Rust. Keep trying to do things that way, and I don't know. It's just I don't really like it. I don't really like um, the fact that like if I create a base class and I inherit from it, I just specify the base class. I have no way of knowing what there's no real good way of knowing what type I'm actually getting when I pass something in. But yeah, I'm sure there's ways around it and like stuff I don't know. It's just I don't know. I just don't really like working in C++. And I mostly chose C++ simply because of the fact that I mean, it's just easier to get like all these normal function calls. Like in other languages, it's kind of there's like a layer, there's like a wrapper in between. It just kind of makes things more complicated. But yeah, ultimately, I don't know if that's that big a deal. And I also am thinking of getting into Vulkan. Well, basically, the kind of my thought process currently is I would like to get into Vulkan sort of rendering because it's for one, it's newer technology, or it's more just that OpenGL is going to be deprecated on Mac OS systems. Technically, Vulkan isn't officially supported by Mac OS, but there's some wrappers that will make things work. Like it'll translate the calls to Metal, Mac OS's its internal stuff, but Vulkan is also supported on Windows, which is that's a platform I want to support, even though I develop on Linux. I do everything on Linux. And also it's because Vulkan's kind of a more technical, kind of an annoying thing to work in, there's a little more job opportunities potentially. I mean, ultimately, it's kind of interesting. Looking at my research into the game development sphere, it's just super competitive. I mean, a lot of the jobs are just Unity and Unreal. The only reason why I don't really use those is because they're just not working for me. They're not working on my machine. I can't get them to install. I can't get them to run. I have Unreal Editor. I guess you can't really see that. Let me change the screen. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, try and execute it. This doesn't do anything. But yeah, which is really annoying. I would try out Unity. Unity does have a Linux client, but it's just not working for me. I can't get it to run. I can't get it to install. I don't know. I mean, ultimately, if I really wanted to get into game dev, I probably should just use Windows, but I just really don't like Windows. It is obnoxious. It is extremely opinionated on everything. I mean, right now, it's I have updates that need to be installed. If you look right here, it's just yeah, currently something's kind of messed up, but whatever. Yeah, I probably need to restart my computer. But yeah, I mean, if there's an update in Windows, it forces you to stop what you're doing and update your computer. And especially if you dual boot and you're on Linux most of the time, pretty much every time you start up Windows, you're gonna have a lot of updates. I mean, that's kind of understandable. If you haven't used your computer in a while, you get updates. It's just the fact that I have to stop everything I'm doing, and that it'll just sometimes be sometimes it'll let you put off the updates. Other times it's just I don't care. I'm updating now. You're not using your computer for a good 30 minutes or so. But yeah, so yeah, I don't really want this to become a rant, but it is kind of frustrating that I haven't really found a game dev tech that I've really been happy with. I've just kind of been floating around, just trying to figure out what I want exactly. I mean, I enjoy this lower level stuff. I've enjoyed doing OpenGL because that's just kind of fun to do. Vulkan, I've done some tutorials and stuff in Vulkan. It is verbose. There are ways to get around that. I mean, some of the wrappers are better than others. One I've been messing around with is Volcano. I don't know exactly how you pronounce it. well, actually, yeah, so I was just kind of following a tutorial. It's just like the normal standard tutorial, and it's all pretty simple, and it's nice because it's the thing about OpenGL that I dislike is it's built entirely around side effects, which if you don't know what a side effect is, basically if you execute a function and that changes something else in your program, that's called a side effect. And it's just kind of gross. Like if you bind a buffer and you forget to unbind it, I mean, it will just stay bound and you can screw some stuff up. Vulkan's nice because it's kind of more like everything's kind of packaged up. Like you have your instance, which ultimately a lot of this is just to get to the device and the queue. Those are the only things you really need. But it's nice because the device is just like, okay, I just need, this just specifies the graphics card that I'm actually looking at, the one that I'm actually sending stuff to. And it's also nice because like it also has the concept of like command buffers, which are essentially like if you look here, it just clears an image, clears a color image, and that's all it's doing currently. But actually, I might want to look at I was messing around with doing a ray tracer. Not entirely sure how far along what did I do here. Okay, so I did get further along. This will show better command buffers. Yeah, I mean, it's just like rather than doing a series of draw command, like calling functions that issue the commands, you essentially create a buffer that just stores all those, and then you just pass the buffer up to the graphics card, and that just executes them. I mean, so essentially, I don't know. It's just I've been liking Vulkan. I mean, this Volcano isn't too verbose. Like if this were like with regular Vulkan, it would be very, very verbose, and there'd be a lot of like boilerplate and stuff like that. And there's ways to get around that. I'd like to work with Vulkan though, in some capacity. But yeah, I mean this thing, all it does is it creates the Mandelbrot set, and that's fairly simple. I mean, if you don't know what the Mandelbrot set is, I guess it's not all that simple now that I think about it. But yeah, I mean, here's the shader code right here. I mean, there's some things about Volcano I don't really like. I'm not super fond of macros. I don't really like them because the code autocomplete just doesn't really work for them. So like if like after the fact, I mean, it just doesn't recognize some of these things. They're valid. They're completely valid, but I have to like be reviewing documentation if I ever want to use this. I can't just let the computer tell me what sort of methods are available. That's my only problem with Rust is that the like the IntelliSense or whatever is not quite up to snuff. I mean, the C++ one is actually really, really good. I'm very impressed, but yeah. So essentially, I guess basically the point of this video is I am probably going to discontinue the series on the RTS Engine. I'm just not enjoying it. It's taking... I had like kind of an endpoint, but at the time I didn't really realize that I actually set up a lot more work for me than I anticipated. I'm going to release the code, so if you just kind of want to see it in its entirety, it's super unorganized mess that it is, I'm going to release that to my GitHub, which should be just I think it's like github.com/solder. But yeah, you release that, and other things that I'm gonna do are, I'm not entirely sure what my next project will be. I mean, this one I started doing it, but I don't know if I care about ray tracers. I don't know if that's useful to me. I am just trying to kind of figure out what I want to do with this channel. Do I want to... Yeah, because I don't know, I'm just not enjoying this. And I was doing this for fun, and if it's not fun, then I should stop doing it. There's no point in... I wasn't planning on making any money on the engine or anything. I was more just exploring the design space, and I'd learned some things. Things I learned. For one, you like the base of your engine needs to be good. The main problem I had was my choice to like do separate renderers. I think that was just a bad idea. I mean, the classic don't repeat yourself. I mean, I kind of dislike that sort of like the whole dry principle, but it kind of makes sense. Ultimately, like rendering something, I don't really have like everything I was going to render was going to be a box. I should have just like all I need is basically a box renderer, or just like ultimately just a model class, because that's all I really need. Model class texture, and then next time I try and make like my own engine, which I do intend to do, though I'm probably going to do something simpler. Like I should probably just do a platformer, 2D platformer, or similar, even like maybe even a first person shooter. Just something super simple. But yeah. Because it's, RTS was a bit much for my particular skill level. I mean, I think part of me thought it was easier than it was. Because there's a lot more systems involved. And I just kind of got in over my head. So, but yeah. Other things that about this project, I guess this is just going to be a postmortem. Texture should have been created a long time ago. I'm actually fairly happy with texture as is. I kind of want to rethink how resources are loaded and stored, but that's neither here nor there. Overall, I mean, this works perfectly fine. I'm happy with this. Input, I actually pretty like this input class. It's ultimately, it's probably not the best. Having multiple callbacks is just kind of weird, but I mean, it works. Ultimately, I was just trying to get around I just wanted to use kind of lambdas is ultimately why I did it this way, rather than just like having an interface that you just inherit from. But yeah. Entity's a mess. A lot of things work fine. Movement system's super simple. Sprite orientation system, this was pretty cool. I'm still fairly happy with this. Selection system, I don't really like how I did this. Selections should probably be just, a selection should be an entity probably. I think most things, if I'm using an entity component system, I should probably use it for everything. It doesn't really make sense. Like currently the entity component system is kind of tangent, like, or like the entity render isn't, like, it's just kind of weird. I don't know. I think I'm not even rendering the entity, like the selection box here. I think no, it looks like I am. But yeah, I think it's probably in one of these. Yeah, entity render system and so on and so forth. Yeah, so selection system, it worked okay. Actually, I'm fairly happy with this. It feels fairly good. Job system, I don't really like the job system how it is. It works. This part is probably just the most complex, and I didn't realize that. Simply because, like, essentially this is like the AI of the thing. And it's just like, I don't know, like working around Entity X was kind of difficult, and also kind of figure out like, oh, whether I should have, what data job should have, and all that jazz. Yeah, I don't know. One thing I would have changed is currently I'm processing collisions here. I should probably just have a collision system itself and process the collisions themselves rather than processing entities to see if there's a collision, because that I have to look through a lot of entities if I do it that way. But yeah. Entity render system, that's like whatever. Yeah, ultimately I'm a little sad that I'm kind of cutting this this project off, but I don't know. I'm just not enjoying it, and the whole point was doing this for fun, and if it's not fun, there's no point in doing it. But yeah, so next steps would be figure out something else to work on. I'm probably going to be also uploading some like more opinion videos. Not all programming stuff. Recently they had E3s happened recently, and kind of want to make some videos about that. But yeah, ultimately, so that's all for now. I'll figure out what other project I'm gonna work on. I just kind of need to figure out what sort of language, like, and stuff that I actually enjoy working on. I mean, I like Kotlin. Ultimately, I probably want to do a lot of stuff in Kotlin. And I might try and just do that, though. I'd like to use Kotlin native and not like the Java, the JVM version. But Kotlin native isn't quite mature yet. And there's no, like, the IDE, you still have to pay for it, and it might just, I don't know, I kind of feel weird buying it at this point, especially if I'm not going to use Kotlin native, because I'm not entirely sure I want to. Haven't decided yet. But yeah, it's either going to be Kotlin or Rust. I'm kind of leaning towards Rust because Rust and Linux work a lot better than Kotlin, and or is Kotlin native. I mean, Kotlin native is working, but I don't know, it's still fairly new. Rust is slightly less new, and I just don't really want to do anything with C++. Go, the Go language, I don't know, don't really like it all that much. Don't hate it. It's just, I don't know. But yeah, that I'm gonna cut this off because I'm kind of rambling now. But yeah, so that's the end of this project. I'm just gonna like commit my changes. Literally all I did. I mean, after I kind of scrapped all the other changes, all I did was I changed the job system to. I'll just show you. Change job system. Where is it? Yeah, I just made it so that if you change if the entity has a selection, then it will, yeah, I can change their position. But yeah. Yeah, I'm just fairly happy with how it turned out. I mean, it's obviously not the finished product. I wouldn't sell it or anything, but that'll be all. Yep, so just commit the changes, and that is it. I won't name it that, actually. Selected data entities, always get first job. There we go. That's all completed. I'm gonna upload it and then make it public. Yeah, well, thanks for coming along with me on this journey. It's been fun, for the most part. But anyway, have a nice day, and solder out.